All right, so prepping for a lexicographer interview, that's not something you hear every day. It's a fascinating field, though, and we're going to help you nail this interview. We've got a whole stack of resources here from RoleCatcher, career guides, interview questions, and even information about their AI tools that can help tailor your answers to specific job roles.
Yeah, it's definitely more than just loving words. Lexicographers are like the architects of language, shaping how we understand it, how we use it. They're the ones deciding which words make it into the dictionary
Yeah.
and then how those words are defined.
Is a huge responsibility.
Hmm.
So let's just dive right into some of those potential interview questions. RoleCatcher has compiled quite a few, and they're really insightful. One that often comes up is, can you tell us about your experience with lexicography?
Hmm. This is your chance to showcase your passion for language, even if you don't have like direct professional experience. So think about times you've maybe deep dived into the etymology of a word, maybe you've compiled glossaries just for fun, or even just spent hours dissecting song lyrics.
Oh, I love that. Dissecting song lyrics. That really does show an analytical approach to language, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And remember, the interviewer is looking for that genuine interest, that spark that shows you're truly fascinated by all the intricacies of language.
All right, so here's another one from RoleCatcher. How do you approach researching and defining new words and phrases? This seems like it gets to the heart of a lexicographer's work.
It does, and the key here is to go beyond simply looking it up. Explain how you would use multiple sources, books, articles, academic journals, even social media, to see how a word or a phrase is used in real-world contexts.
Because meaning can be so fluid,
Yeah.
independent on context, you've got to consider who's using the word,
Yeah.
in what situation, and for what purpose.
Exactly. And you can even mention specific lexicographical principles, like corpus linguistics, which uses vast databases of text to analyze how language is used, or talk about the challenges of defining slang, where the meaning can shift so rapidly and vary across different communities.
And this is where RoleCatcher's AI can really come in handy. Their CV and resume builder analyzes job descriptions to highlight the skills you should emphasize in your answers. It's like having a personal lexicography coach in your pocket.
It is. Their AI can also help tailor your answers to those specific job roles. For example, if you're applying for a position that involves compiling like an online slang dictionary, you'd want to highlight your knowledge of internet culture and your ability to track how language evolves online.
Speaking of staying up to date, RoleCatcher's next question is, how do you stay current with changes in language and new words? This one seems like it's all about demonstrating that proactive approach to learning.
It is. Reading is essential, of course, but go beyond books. Think about how you engage with language in your daily life. Do you listen to podcasts? Scroll through social media? Eavesdrop on conversations? Discreetly, of course. All of these can provide valuable insights into how language is evolving.
It's like being a linguistic detective, constantly on the lookout for clues about how people are using and shaping language.
Exactly. You can impress the interviewers by mentioning specific publications or online communities that lexicographers follow. For instance, the American Dialect Society has a fantastic website and newsletter that tracks new words and slang.
It's a great tip. It shows you're already plugged into the field
Yeah.
and actively seeking out knowledge.
And don't be afraid to share personal anecdotes. If you've ever kept a running list of new slang terms that you've heard, or noticed how the meaning of a particular emoji has shifted over time, that's gold. It demonstrates that you're naturally curious and observant about language, which is a valuable trait for any lexicographer.
Now, before we move on to more interview questions, let's take a moment to look at the bigger picture of a lexicographer's career path. RoleCatcher's Career Guide breaks down the different stages, from internships to senior positions. And it's helpful to understand how responsibilities evolve as you progress.
It also highlights the importance of continuous learning, which is crucial in a field where language never stops evolving. You'll always be encountering new words, new slang, new ways that people are using language.
One thing that really struck me in the guide is how technology is changing lexicography. Online dictionaries, AI-powered research tools.
Yeah.
It's a whole new landscape.
It is, and interviewers will want to know how you see yourself adapting to these changes. Imagine they ask, how do you envision the role of technology shaping the future of lexicography? What would you say?
That's a great question, and it's one we'll definitely dig into further as we continue exploring these interview questions. But first, let's take a quick break and then come back to unpack some more of RoleCatcher's insights.
It's fascinating to think about how technology is reshaping the lexicographic landscape, from how dictionaries are compiled to how we even access information.
It really is. And speaking of technology, RoleCatcher's AI tools can actually help you tailor your answers for these types of questions, which I think is amazing.
Absolutely. Their interview practice tool uses AI to analyze your responses and offer suggestions for improvement. It's like having a personalized feedback system that helps you refine your answers and boost your confidence.
It's incredible how AI is being integrated into so many aspects of our lives now, even something as specialized as lexicography.
It is. Now, getting back to those potential interview questions. Let's say they ask, can you walk us through your process for creating a new dictionary entry?
This one feels like it's really getting into the nitty-gritty of a lexicographer's work.
It is. It's a chance to demonstrate that you understand the meticulous steps involved, from the research to the definition to the illustration.
So you'd want to start by explaining how you'd thoroughly research the word's meaning and its usage in various contexts.
Precisely. You'd look at books, articles, even social media to see how people are using the word in real-life situations. You could even mention using a corpus, a large database of text and speech, which can help you analyze the word's frequency, its collocations, and its semantic prosody.
Wow, it sounds like a fascinating blend of traditional research methods and cutting-edge technology.
It is, and once you have a comprehensive understanding of the word's usage, you would move on to crafting a clear, concise, and easy-to-understand definition.
And of course, selecting well-chosen examples. That really showcased the word's different nuances and how it's used in those various contexts.
Exactly. Think about the intended audience of the dictionary. A definition for a children's dictionary is going to be different from one for a technical dictionary. So, for example, defining quantum mechanics for a young audience might involve using analogies and relatable examples, while a technical definition would focus on its scientific principles and mathematical framework.
That's such an important point.
Yeah.
Tailoring your work to the specific needs of the people who will be using it.
Absolutely. And then you might discuss the importance of consistency across the dictionary. For example, if you're defining a set of synonyms, like happy, joyful, and cheerful, you need to ensure that the definitions differentiate them clearly and use a consistent level of formality.
And I imagine that collaboration plays a big role in lexicography, especially when ensuring consistency across multiple entries.
It does. You would likely be working as part of a team, so highlighting your ability to collaborate and receive constructive feedback is essential.
Speaking of collaboration, let's say the interviewer asks, how do you handle situations where there's disagreement among lexicographers about a word's definition or usage? This one feels like it could get kind of tricky.
It can, but it's also an opportunity to demonstrate your diplomacy skills and your ability to navigate complex discussions respectfully.
So you'd start by emphasizing the importance of active listening, understanding different perspectives, and presenting your own arguments clearly and respectfully.
Exactly. And always rely on evidence. Back up your definitions with solid research, usage examples, and perhaps even historical context. You're not just going with your gut feeling, you're making well-informed decisions based on linguistic principles and data.
And I imagine that sometimes there may not be a single right answer, especially when dealing with a language that's constantly evolving.
Absolutely. This is where your judgment and critical thinking skills really come into play. You might consider factors like the word's frequency of use, its acceptance by language experts, and even its cultural significance.
That makes sense. So let's say the interviewer throws you a curveball and asks, how do you ensure the dictionary is inclusive and representative of different communities and cultures? This one feels particularly relevant in today's world, where language is becoming increasingly diverse.
It is, and it's a question that really gets to the heart of a lexicographer's responsibility. You want to demonstrate that you're aware of the many different ways that people use language and that you're committed to representing those variations in the dictionary accurately and respectfully.
So how would you approach this question?
I would start by emphasizing the importance of actively seeking out words and phrases from various communities and cultures, going beyond mainstream sources, consulting specialized dictionaries, linguistic journals, and community publications.
That's crucial, because it's not just about adding those words, it's about understanding their nuances, their cultural significance, and their historical context.
Precisely. You want to avoid misrepresenting or appropriating language. For example, if you were defining a term originating from African American vernacular English, you'd want to consult resources dedicated to AAVE and ensure you understand its historical and cultural significance, not just its current usage.
And perhaps even consult with members of those communities to ensure that your definitions are accurate and culturally sensitive.
Exactly. It's about showing that you're not just a language expert, but also a culturally aware and sensitive individual who understands the power of language to both reflect and shape society.
That's so important. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about the future of lexicography.
Sure.
RoleCatcher asks, how do you see the role of lexicography evolving in the digital age?
This is your chance to showcase your forward thinking and your understanding of how technology is impacting the way we use and define language. Think about the rise of online dictionaries, AI-powered research tools, and the growing influence of social media and internet slang.
It's a whole new world compared to the days of those dusty leather-bound dictionaries.
It is. You could talk about how you see technology both aiding and challenging lexicographers. AI can be an incredible tool for analyzing vast amounts of data and identifying patterns in language usage, but it also requires human oversight and critical thinking to ensure accuracy and avoid bias.
So it's not about replacing human lexicographers with machines. It's about finding ways for humans and technology to work together effectively.
Exactly. And you can even discuss the ethical implications of AI in lexicography. How do we ensure that these tools are used responsibly and that they don't perpetuate existing biases or marginalize certain communities?
Those are really important considerations. And it's fascinating to think about how lexicography will continue to evolve as technology advances.
It is. Now let's tackle another question where you can draw on your personal experience. Imagine the interviewer asks, can you provide an example of a time when you had to make a difficult decision about a definition or the inclusion of a word in a dictionary?
This one feels like it calls for some real-life storytelling.
It does. Think back to a time when you had to weigh different factors. Maybe a word with multiple meanings, or a slang term that was gaining popularity, but considered offensive by some.
Or a word that had recently acquired a new meaning or usage, and you had to decide whether to include it in the dictionary.
Exactly. Walk the interviewer through your thought process. What were the key considerations? Did you consult any specific sources? How did you ultimately arrive at your decision?
And don't be afraid to be honest about the challenges. What made this particular decision difficult? What did you learn from the experience?
Authenticity is always valuable in an interview. It shows that you're not just reciting memorized answers, but actually reflecting on your experiences and demonstrating your growth.
Okay, let's wrap up this deep dive into interview questions with one that feels particularly weighty. Imagine they ask, how do you balance preserving the integrity of language with reflecting changes in language usage?
Ah, yes. The classic balancing act of lexicographer. This is where you showcase your understanding of the complexities of language and your appreciation for both its history and its evolution.
Because on the one hand, you want to uphold the established rules and standards of the language.
But on the other hand, you have to acknowledge that language is a living, breathing entity that's constantly changing.
So how do you find that balance? What are your criteria for deciding when a new word or usage has become sufficiently established to warrant inclusion in the dictionary?
Do you rely on frequency of use, acceptance by language experts, historical precedents, or perhaps a combination of factors?
And how do you deal with slang terms and informal language? Do you have a different set of criteria for those? This is your opportunity to demonstrate your knowledge of lexicographical principles, your critical thinking skills, and your ability to navigate the ever-evolving landscape of language.
And it's a chance to bring it all back to your core passion for language, for its history, its diversity, and its ability to continually surprise and amaze us.
This has been such an insightful exploration of the world of lexicography and the interview process. We've covered a lot of ground.
We have, and remember, these are just starting points. RoleCatcher has a wealth of resources available, including those remarkable AI tools that can help you personalize your preparation and truly shine in your interview.
So what does this all mean for you as you step into that interview room? You're not just prepping for a job you know. You're potentially stepping into a role where you'll be shaping how we understand and use language. That's incredibly powerful.
It really is. What we've discussed today is just a glimpse into the fascinating world of lexicography.
Right. This deep dive has equipped you with a solid foundation, but the learning never truly stops, especially in a field as dynamic as this.
Exactly. Even after this deep dive, keep flexing those lexicography muscles. Pay attention to the language around you, new words, shifting meanings, the whole intricate tapestry of language.
Because that constant curiosity, that attentiveness to how language ebbs and flows, that's what makes a great lexicographer.
It's true, and those dictionaries on our shelves might seem like the final word, but they're really just snapshots of language in a particular moment. Language never stands still.
And who knows? Maybe one day you'll be the one deciding whether yit or some other newfangled term earns its place in the dictionary.
Wouldn't that be something? Remember, language is constantly evolving.
Okay.
Embrace that change. Nurture your curiosity. And go knock 'em dead in that interview.
Good luck.